Welcome everyone to This Explainer. Today we're taking a massive, truly fascinating journey. We're going to distill centuries of incredibly rich and complex history into one cohesive story. It's the story of an ongoing pursuit. We're looking at a nation shaped over hundreds of years by immense struggle, remarkable achievements, and this constant driving search for opportunity. We're going to break down this huge timeline, step by step, so you can see exactly how the past built the world we live in today. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for the explainer. We'll be covering 1. Early roots and colonization, 2. Revolution and new nation, 3. Expansion, division, civil war, 4. Industrialization and global power, and finally, 5. The modern American era. Let's get started.
Section 1. Early roots and colonization.
Now, what's really interesting about this is that long before European ships ever arrived, North America was already this incredibly dynamic place. For thousands of years, it was home to diverse indigenous nations with super rich cultures, really complex governments, and thriving trade networks. Actually, to put it into perspective, cities like Cahokia in the Midwest were once larger than London was at the exact same time. These deep, long-standing connections to the land really form the absolutely crucial foundation of the continent's entire history.
But zooming out a bit, the timeline accelerated pretty quickly. In 1492, Columbus's voyage sparked a massive wave of European exploration, and by 1607, the English had founded Jamestown, the very first permanent English settlement. As colonies started growing up and down the Atlantic coast, well, so did the tensions. Heavy taxes and demands for self-rule finally pushed things right to the breaking point, leading us straight into 1775 and the explosive start of the American Revolution. Section 2. Revolution and new nation.
Just 1 year into that revolution, the colonists made it official. On July 4, 1776, they adopted the Declaration of Independence. This was a bold, very public break from British rule. Led by George Washington, the Americans fought a grueling uphill war all the way until 1783, which is when Great Britain finally recognized the independence of the United States. But here's the catch. Winning the war was really just step one. It begs a massive question. How do you build a completely new nation from scratch? Right? They had their independence, sure, but they desperately needed a functioning government to hold everything together. The answer arrived in 1787 with the drafting of the United States Constitution. And what's truly mind-blowing to think about is that this relatively short piece of parchment, drafted well over 200 years ago by men in powdered wigs, established the exact framework that still guides the nation and literally impacts your daily life today. It's the very same document.
Section 3. Expansion, division, civil war.
Moving into the 1800s, the nation rapidly expanded westward. Populations absolutely boomed, new territories were added to the map, and developing industries flourished. But this growth came with a dark and highly volatile shadow. As those new territories were added, the deep, fundamental divisions over the brutal institution of slavery were inflamed, which set the stage for an unavoidable conflict.
So the crucial point is, in 1861, those internal fractures finally broke open. The nation plunged right into the American Civil War, pitting the Union states directly against the Confederate states. It remains the deadliest conflict in American history, essentially tearing the newly expanded nation apart at the seams.
The outcome of this devastating war arrived in 1865. Under President Abraham Lincoln, the Union prevailed, and this victory achieved two monumental things: the preservation of the United States as a single nation and the long-overdue abolition of slavery.
Section 4. Industrialization and global power.
In the decades immediately following the Civil War, explosive domestic growth changed absolutely everything. Railroads effectively shrank this vast continent, connecting distant regions. Factories transformed city skylines and actually gave birth to the modern 9-to-5 workday we know today. Drawn by this massive boom, millions of immigrants arrived seeking opportunity, bringing fresh energy and completely transforming the nation's demographics. Let's move to and see how this builds into the 20th century. All this domestic industrial might really propelled the United States onto the world stage. The nation emerged as a major global power, playing decisive roles in World War I, which began in 1914. Then, following the attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941, the U.S. entered World War II, helping secure an Allied victory that fundamentally drew the borders of our modern world. Section 5. The Modern American Era. Following World War II, the world effectively split. The United States and the Soviet Union entered the Cold War. Now, this wasn't your traditional battlefields conflict. It was a really tense, high-stakes competition of global influence, proxy wars, and ideology that cast a huge shadow over global politics for decades. But simultaneously, a massive transformation was happening at home. The civil rights movement rose up to actively challenge racial segregation and discrimination. Leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. inspired millions of people, taking huge, historic strides to advance the cause of equality and justice right within the nation's own borders. And right at the end of that incredibly turbulent decade, in 1969, a literally out-of-this-world milestone was reached. American astronauts landed on the moon during the Apollo 11 mission. It is an unbelievable feat, especially when you consider that the lunar module they used had less computing power than the smartphone currently sitting in your pocket. No way, right? And this brilliantly illustrates how that exact same momentum carried the nation right into the 21st century. The United States continues to evolve through massive technological innovation, economic shifts, and ongoing social changes. Today, it stands as a highly influential nation that is the direct sum of its long centuries of struggle, achievement, and incredible diversity. Which leaves us with a final thought. How will the ongoing pursuit of liberty and opportunity shape the nation's next century? We've seen just how dynamic this timeline has been, from diverse indigenous nations all the way to a moon landing. History isn't just something that happened in the past, it's a story being written right now. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I hope it leaves you eager to consider your own place in this ongoing, amazing story.